everyone, welcome back and welcome back to what is quickly wrapping up our phase one of the NSX rebuild here. And we've got to put coolant in it at this point. We've replaced all the hoses, we've done a refresh on major components within the engine, and now we're at a point where we can really start to get into phase two. But before we get into phase two, we have to make sure that we bleed the coolant. We've got to obviously test the motor, make sure that everything is sound after all the work that we've done before we can move into phase two. So in this video, we're going to show you how to bleed the coolant, and we're going to show you some tips and tricks along the way. So let's go ahead and get into it. So let's go over what you'll need to do the coolant changeover on your NA1 NSX. There are a couple of videos out on the internet, so this may be a little redundant in some regards, but I'm going to show you my process, which may slightly differ from another YouTube channel that you've seen. But major props to Lap of the World. I really like their video that they did showcasing how to change over the coolant on your NSX. And so a lot of this was pulled from them, but also I'm going to add a little bit of flavor to it for our channel, which is a little bit different. So let's go over what you'll need. Here we have our coolant, we have a catch can, and we also have two different hoses, a 12mm wrench, and a spill-proof funnel. So you'll take note that there's 4 bottles here because the service manual states that you need 12 liters to do a changeover. However, we're not doing a changeover for our car. We're actually doing a complete drain and refill. And if you look at the service manual, specifically on pages 10-2, you'll note that there are a total cooling system capacity included, which for a 5-speed manual transmission is a 18-liter capacity, and for a automatic is 16.5. So we actually have a couple extra bottles, but depending on what you're doing, you may only need 4, but you also may need a 5th bottle. So take note of that. The spill-proof funnel will make everything a lot easier for you to just manage the fluid that's going in as you're working the bleeder ports and bleeding the air out. So that is just a recommendation, but you theoretically could do with just a regular funnel and the volume of fluid in your reservoir. This catch can right here is mainly for the front because I'm going to show you my technique for the back, which includes just routing the hoses into the spill-proof funnel. And so this one will be primarily in the front, but we may, depending on the volume and how many people you have helping you, may need a bigger one because there is quite a bit of volume that will come out the front. And let's go over the hoses real quick that you'll need. So for this job, you're going to need a 3/16 by 5/16 10-foot hose length, and you're also going to need 1/4 by 3/8 inch hose, and I'll link those down in the description below so that you can go right to the location. You'll also want them to be clear because then you'll be able to see the air bubbles escaping, whereas if you use black, you obviously wouldn't. So now that we've gone over the materials that you'll need, let's go ahead and show you the locations where you'll need to hook up your hoses. So starting with the back of the NSX, you'll want to locate your fluid reservoir and note that right beside it is a bleed port. Now there's also another bleed port back here that we'll need to take note of, and that's right below the throttle body and the throttle body cable itself. So using my light and focusing, we can see that there's the second one in the back. Now with those located, you'll use your 12mm wrench to crack open those bleeder ports. But before we do that, we'll have to hook up the hoses. So let's go to the front where I'll show you where to hook up in the front. Now, depending on what car year you have, you'll also have a variation in this location. This is the upgraded one, so this one has the actual bleeder port, but some may just have a rubber hose and a clamp that you'll need to remove. So one hose location here, and depending on what your radiator is, if you have an OEM one like us or an aftermarket one, your port here may vary, but on the OEM one, this is where your port is. And this is also a good time to take note of the gasket that's here. This gasket has a tendency to fail, and it would not be great if you went through the process and then found out that this O-ring was leaking, but this is the other location for the hose. The larger hose will go here, and the smaller hose will go on all the barbs. You'll want to locate your coolant
catch can somewhere secure in here. We're going to find a secure location to mount ours. Now, it almost goes without saying that you want to make sure before you do any of this that you have the system sealed completely. There are 2 drain plugs that run with the aluminum pipes underneath the car that house in the center body here. So make sure that those have fresh washers and that those are torqued down to spec. But then you also want to make sure that on the engine block, front and rear, there are 2 drain outlets underneath, just adjacent to the exhaust manifolds, that need to be tightened up to make sure that there's not going to be a leakage from the block once you put the coolant in. So at that point, we're ready to go ahead and start our fill process. So let's go ahead and get everything connected. This is our setup for the rear. We've got the 2 hoses going into the spill-proof funnel, and we've got the stopper in. We can go ahead and remove that. So we'll go ahead and take that out. And then our 2 hoses, as coolant does tend to flow over a little bit in this process, it has the ability to go back into the reservoir instead of going into a bottle, which you'll then have to dump anyways into the reservoir. So reducing 1 step there, let's go ahead and show you the front. So this is how I have the front. I'm going to mount it here. I've got 1 hose there, and I'm going to put the other hose, and it just inserts in to that location. This is where you don't have a great connection point, and so you may want to put a towel underneath this location just to make sure that if anything spills, it's not going to make a huge mess. It shouldn't, because it'll fit properly, but there may be a little drippage that happens from that location. All right, so with our bleeder ports open, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the service manual. We've already located every port location, but now there's a sequence that we have to follow. And in this manual, you'll see that these pictures are numbered, and these pictures correspond to those 4 bleeder ports. And there's also a 5th step. Not a lot of people reference the 5th step, but they do it. They just don't call it a 5th step. So the first one is on the one below the throttle body, which is going to be 1 and 5. The next one's going to be the radiator, the upper one, that uses the larger hose. And then 3 is going to be the heater core location next to the brake master cylinder. And then the 4th location is going to be the one next to the fluid reservoir, the pipes that come through the firewall in the back of the engine. And then you come back around to number 5 there. So let's go over the process. So once you fill the expansion tank with coolant, and it's starting to go into the actual passages of the car, you tighten them. So once you bleed out all the air, obviously, you tighten the bleeders in the sequence numbers below. So the thermo cover, then the radiator, then the heater core pipe, then the pipe on the back next to the reservoir. And then after you tighten all those sequence, you make sure that you do that 5th step, which is the thermo cover one. Again, just in case there's any air, it'll bleed out there as the 5th step. After that, then you start the car, you let it warm up, the radiator cooling fan should run, the thermostat will open, then you turn off the car. Make sure that you have the radiator cap at 60 degrees for when you do that step with the running of the engine. And we'll go over that, but just note that it's not a full on for that final run step. It's just a 60-degree on. It's like the first click. So now that we've gone over the step, let's go ahead and do it. Let's go ahead and fill this car up with coolant. All right, so the next step after you've connected all your hoses is to go ahead and crack open those bleeder ports. Now when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you open them sufficiently. If you don't, then you will struggle to get the air out of them. So that's step 1. Step 2 is down here. So there we go. We've got that one opened up. Now they may seep a little bit right at the base. That's fine. It's not a problem. So you could put a rag under them. That's fine. Not a problem either. But make sure that they're open sufficiently or the fluid won't come out and subsequently the air won't come out. Then up in the front, you want to make sure that you open this one. So that one's all set. And then we've got our radiator connection. So that's right there. And it's pushed in, so you can't just let it fall out. It will stay in there that way. And hopefully won't leak a lot, but I've got my rag here just in case it starts to leak a little bit. Okay, we've got our hoses secure. We've got our spill-proof funnel secure. Let's go ahead and fill it up. Okay, it's starting to drain down. It did come up pretty high on the reservoir, but now it's funneling down into the car. That's perfect. We'll have to do that at least 2 more times, and we'll check our fill locations. All right, so we started to see a little bit of coolant come out of this line right here that comes from the firewall. So as we get closer, let's see what happens. So we definitely have air coming out of the throttle body one. We have a little bit of fluid up front off of the heater core one, but nothing coming out of the radiator yet. All right, so we've got some fluid in the expansion tank still. And that's being replaced. So as it's actively being drawn down, you can see some of the air starting to shoot out, and that's because the fluid is starting to replace the voids where the air is. Those air pockets are starting to come out a little bit. So you can help it a little bit by squeezing some of the hoses that might, jostle some of the air out. So that, like that. I don't know if it's coming over on the audio, but it's definitely a gurgling sound. And the reservoir is going down. You could also get under the car and squeeze the ones that go to the front of the car. This is just a little bit easier for me, just from a location perspective. It's just right underneath the expansion tank. So we'll keep working this until we feel like we've gotten all the air out and we start to see a consistent stream of coolant starting to come out without the air bubbles. All right, so we've got a consistent column of coolant, both front and back. You can see here that I've moved the rag a little closer to this port because this one was leaking just a tad bit over the battery, so not ideal. So take note of that. You may obviously want to disconnect your battery just to play it safe, but no leaking here, which is where I suspected it would leak, but leaking right there. So your mileage may vary, I guess, with the hose connections and your fittings. But no coolant has actually reached the bottle yet. That's because we're looking for the air to rise and a steady stream of coolant. What we're gonna do is squeeze the hoses here to jostle any of that air pocket out, and then make sure that all the air pockets going back are also bled out of the system by squeezing the hoses in the back. Now, if you leave any coolant or any air in the system, that's going to represent a super hot pocket, which could then cause some catastrophic issues with your engine. So just make sure that we got some air pocket that just released. So make sure you take your time. Some people say it's even better to let it sit overnight because then all the air will have the ability to kind of work its way out. Obviously, if you're on a tight timeline, that may not work for you, but for us, that's the step that we're going to take. So we're going to let this sit overnight. We're going to squeeze the hoses, and then we're going to come back and finish our process. So I'm finding that the primary one that I'm getting the most air out of, and it makes sense when you think about it, is the one that goes to the heater core. This one right here is probably battling a bunch of air that's locked up in the heater core. So I found that if I just consistently just on off squeeze that hose, we still get air out of this, whereas I'm not getting air out of any other hose but this one. So that tells me that there's a ton of air trapped in that heater core. So take note of that. You're just gonna wanna squeeze, squeeze, squeeze consistently. You can squeeze this one, you can squeeze the ones in the back, but at a point I've been just noticing that I'm not getting any more air out of these and the ones in the back, but I'm consistently and still battling this one right here. Now, I didn't include this in the list of supplies, but if you have a couple of these, it does help for when you're removing the hose from the barb, because if you pinch it off, the fluid will stay in the column within the tube and you won't make a mess. Otherwise, when you remove it, it'll just drain right out. So you can either use one of these to pinch it off, obviously above the fluid level, or you could just fold it over and pinch it and hold it with one hand while you remove it from the barb. That will prevent the, like I said, the fluid from just rushing out. So little pro tip there. These are little handy tools that you can pick up pretty inexpensively. All right, we've got all the bleeder valves either plugged up or turned so that they're not allowing any air or any fluid to exit them. Now we've got to go back and do the fifth step. So everything is closed. We're going to go ahead and shake the hoses and kind of squeeze them a little bit just to see if we can get any air. And what we want to do is crack open this bleeder right here, which is originally the number 1 bleeder, now has become the number 5 bleeder in our sequence. So this is the final step before we put the cap on about 60 degrees and then start the car for the first time. We've got everything tidied up now, so before we go ahead and start the engine, we want to make sure that it's to the at least to the max line on this, if not a little bit more. Inevitably, it will drain down a little bit just as you start, so keep an eye on that. And this is what it should look like when you've got the radiator cap or the expansion overflow cap on, just at that 60-degree mark. It hits that first notch, and that's all you need. So we're ready to start the car and bring it up to temperature. That will be the final step here. And if you're curious how much fluid we actually used, we used 3.5 of these containers. So you definitely want to make sure that you have a fourth and possibly a fifth one on hand, just so that you can top it off when you're done.
As you can see, it's quite a unique process to bleed the coolant system on this car. And just like any mid-engine car, you're going to have a little extra work, a little more involvement than a front-engine car like we're typically used to. But it doesn't mean that you can't do this. It's fairly simple with some tools and the right knowledge to get the coolant system bled on this car. So if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Also subscribe, there's more videos coming. And if you're looking for another good video to watch on how to do this, recommend you head over to our friends at Lap of the World. Richard over there did a great video just quickly doing a rundown on their NSX and how to bleed the coolant. So we'll leave their link down below. And for now, we'll see you on the next one.